It's about 11 p.m. and you're checking a brokerage balance on your phone for the fourth time that week. The number says $61,412. Behind you, the couch has a tear in the left cushion covered with a throw blanket from Target. The TV is a 32-inch refurbished set that cost $89. Outside, a 2014 Civic with 117,000 miles sits under a streetlight, a crack creeping across the windshield you've been ignoring for 2 months. My name is William, and I was 22 years old the night that balance first meant something to me. My friends thought I was broke. I was not broke. I was building something they couldn't see, something that didn't exist on Instagram, growing at a rate that was just starting to bend upward on the curve. By 24, that number crossed $100,000. I need to be upfront about something before we go any further, because you deserve the honest version, not the flattering one. I didn't inherit this money. Nobody handed me a check. I didn't win a crypto lottery or sell a company. I graduated with about $9,000 in student debt and a starting salary of $52,000 at a job I found through a career fair. My parents helped with tuition, and I'm grateful for that, but they didn't fund my adult life. There was no trust fund quietly compounding in the background. What I had instead was 12 habits, 12 boring, unglamorous habits that most people my age were either ignoring or quietly laughing at, because from the outside they looked less like wealth building and more like struggling. Here's why the timing mattered. The median retirement savings balance for Americans in their 20s sits at just over $42,000, according to Empower's most recent data. I crossed 6 figures before most of my peers had finished paying off their first credit card. And the personal savings rate in this country hovers around 4% of income. I was keeping closer to 50%. That gap isn't a salary gap, it's a behavior gap. These 12 habits are the entire behavior. The first habit changed everything else because it removed the one variable that actually mattered, me. I automated my investments the day after every paycheck, before I could see the money or feel it as mine. On the 15th and the 30th, $750 left my checking account and went into my 401k and a Roth IRA. I never touched the amount until my first raise. My brain learned to live on what remained, roughly $2,100 a month after taxes and rent. Automatic enrollment participants save at nearly double the rate of people managing contributions manually. Automation isn't a convenience, it's the mechanism. It removes the decision, and decisions are where most people fail. The second habit cost $3 and saved thousands. I tracked every dollar in a physical notebook, not an app, 5 minutes each night before bed. The act of writing forced my brain to process each purchase twice, once when I spent it, once when I recorded it. Within a month, I'd found over $300 in spending I genuinely didn't know I was doing. A forgotten subscription, a $4 gas station sparkling water habit costing me $80 a month without me noticing. People who track spending by hand say 15 to 20% more than people who don't. The notebook cost $3. It bought back thousands. The third habit lived in the kitchen. I cooked almost every meal at home and batch cooked on Sundays. A pot of chili, a sheet pan of chicken and vegetables, rice with whatever protein was on sale. Those 3 meals covered most of my week. My grocery bill ran about $220 a month, roughly half what my peers spent on food combined with delivery. That gap, redirected and invested at 7% for 30 years, is worth roughly $367,000 from a Sunday afternoon and a pot of chili. The fourth habit was rent, and it's the one that scared people most. I kept it below 25% of my take-home pay, not the 30% everyone recommends. My take-home was about $2,850. 25% of that is $712. I found a studio for $730. Clean, safe, a working stove, a door that locked. My friends paid $1,100 to $1,400 for nicer places in trendier neighborhoods. That $500 monthly gap invested at 7% over 20 years is worth roughly $295,000. The apartment didn't have granite countertops. It had exactly what I needed and nothing I was financing.
The fifth habit sat in the driveway. I bought a used car with cash and maintained it religiously. $8,200 for the Civic, inspected by a mechanic first for $75, which saved me from 2 other cars with hidden problems. 0 car payment ever. The average new car payment in this country now sits above $760 a month. My total annual cost, including insurance, gas, and maintenance, ran about $3,400. The typical new car owner's total easily clears $14,000. That $10,600 difference, invested for 30 years, is worth over $1.2 million. The windshield had a crack. The engine started every morning. That's all a car needs to do. The sixth habit was the library. I never bought books, movies, or audiobooks. I read 2 a month through the app on my commute. The average book buyer spends $200 to $400 a year. I spent zero. Beyond the savings, it quietly changed how I thought about ownership altogether. The seventh was coffee, and this one had a ritual built into it. I made coffee at home 5 days a week in a $12 French press and treated myself to one bought coffee every Friday. The daily coffee shop habit cost the average buyer over $1,500 a year. Mine cost about $290. The savings, invested over 20 years, come out to roughly $62,000 from a French press. The eighth habit was fitness, and it cost $23 total. A used pull-up bar, a jump rope, body weight exercises from a free program. The average gym membership runs $40 to $60 a month, and most members use it 4 or 5 times monthly. I worked out 6 days a week for free. That $720 a year, invested over 25 years, is worth about $55,000. Nobody at the gym is running that math on the treadmill. The ninth habit was a phone call once a year. I negotiated every recurring bill, insurance, phone, internet, by telling each provider I was considering switching. 70% of people who do this get a reduction. I got one on all 3 the first year, about $480 combined, for 30 minutes of effort. Call it $960 an hour, tax-free. No side hustle pays that well for that little work. The 10th habit was cash, plain and physical. Every 2 weeks, I withdrew $200 for all discretionary spending, dining, entertainment, anything that wasn't a fixed bill. When it was gone, I was done until the next paycheck. Research consistently shows people spend 12 to 18% less with cash than with cards because physical money triggers the brain's actual pain of paying in a way a tap never does. The discipline wasn't willpower, it was architecture. The 11th habit protected the 12 years because I claimed every cent of my employer's 401k match from day one. My company matched dollar for dollar up to 3% and 50 cents on the dollar for the next 2. On my salary, contributing 5% meant an extra $2,600 a year handed to me for checking a box. That is an instant 50% return before the market lifts a finger. And the 12th habit was the hardest one by far. I said no to things I genuinely wanted, not bad decisions, genuinely appealing ones I could technically afford. A trip to Austin with friends, a leather jacket I tried on and stood in front of the mirror considering for 5 minutes, running the real math each time, not the sticker price, the shadow price. That $280 concert ticket isn't $280 at 22. At 8% over 40 years, it's roughly $6,100. I wasn't saying every experience was a bad decision. I was saying I became very selective about which ones were worth $6,000 of future wealth. Most weren't. The ones that were, I attended fully without guilt.
There's a moment I still think about from about 14 months into this. I was at a friend's birthday dinner. Everyone was ordering cocktails and appetizers. I ordered water and the cheapest entree. My friend leaned over, half joking, half not, and asked if I was okay, if I needed money. I had more invested at that table than anyone sitting at it, possibly more than several of them combined. I didn't correct her. I just smiled and said I was good. Because the thing about building wealth quietly is that you don't need anyone to know. The account balance is the validation. Nobody has to clap. I want to be honest about what I got wrong, too, because frugality is a tool, not a virtue, and some of these habits went further than they needed to. I ate chicken breast with rice or beans almost every day for years to keep the food budget low, and I genuinely don't enjoy chicken anymore. I overexposed myself to the point where it stopped being appealing, and that's a real cost that never shows up on a spreadsheet. I skipped a few trips I probably should have taken. Find the sustainable version of these habits, the ones that save money without making you miserable, the ones you can actually maintain for years without burning out. Here's where the $100,000 actually came from, because I think the transparency matters more than the round number. My 401k contributions plus employer match totaled roughly $31,000. My Roth IRA contributions came to about $15,000. Additional brokerage investments from windfalls and extra savings added another $16,000. Market returns across every account contributed around $12,000. My emergency fund and high-yield savings sat near $7,000. The rest came from smaller cash accumulation and the quiet compounding of everything together. 90% of that number came directly from the 12 habits, not a high salary, not a lucky pick. From rice and beans on Sundays, a cracked windshield, a $3 notebook. And here's what $100,000 at 24 actually means, because this is the part that makes every boring habit worth it. Invested and left alone at a 10% average return, it becomes roughly $3.4 million by 65 without adding another cent. That was just the seed. Keep contributing even $500 a month from 24 onward, and the total climbs towards $7 million over a working lifetime, from rice and beans, a used Civic, a $3 notebook, and 12 habits nobody would ever photograph. But I need to tell you something I wish someone had told me at 22. These 12 habits worked because I understood why they worked, not just what to do. Packing a lunch saves money, everyone knows that. Understanding that the $12 daily difference invested for 40 years is worth $142,000 is what makes the habit permanent instead of a New Year's resolution that dies by February. That understanding has a name: financial literacy. It's the thing that turns automatic transfers from optional into obvious, that makes the employer match feel urgent instead of a line item you'll get to eventually. Without it, these 12 habits are just chores a video told you to do. With it, they're inevitable. I put together a full breakdown of exactly that foundation, the real mechanics underneath every habit on this list, the part that makes all of it click instead of just sounding nice for 11 minutes. If any of this landed, that's the natural next step, and it'll be there whenever you're ready for it. The number in my account at 24 was never the destination. It was the first mile of a very long road. I couldn't see the turns coming at 22. I can see them now. That's the only difference that ever mattered, and it's the only one you actually need.